Hey everybody, John here with JP Strategic Investments, and I know I haven't posted a video in a while. I do apologize for that. I've been trying to at least stay active on my Discord server, so if you guys are looking for content, looking for my thoughts and opinions around Xtract One, other stocks, things like that, definitely check that out. The invite link is in the description to all of my videos, but I think it is definitely time that I do make a video, do address what's going on with Xtract One Technologies, what their cash situation is like. A lot of people are wondering, how have they even gone this long? How are they not completely out of money? Is it even possible that they are currently still able to run the business? And so we're going to address that, going to talk about what's happening, what I think might happen in the future, and things around there. So first thing that I want to touch on, how is this possible, right? How do they still have cash? And so what I have in front of me, and I'm actually going to get myself off the screen here so you guys can see. What I have in front of me is the spreadsheet of their financials that I use for every video when I'm analyzing their earnings or talking about different things with their financials. I'm going to make it a little bigger for you guys here so you can see. What we're going to do, just to go over whether or not it's even possible, how do they still have cash? We're going to use this little section here, and essentially what I've done is taken their expenses or their projected expenses, and we'll talk about where I get the 5 million number in a second. We have their cash, and then we have their cash remaining, and we're going to kind of fill in different things here that could be bringing in cash for them to see if the math works out that they could still have some cash at the moment, right? So where do I get the 5 million? Well, from the financials here, if you look at their total non-cash, their total cash burn, which would be their expenses, excluding non-cash expenses, which would be things like stock-based compensation, depreciation, amortization, things like that. We've been looking, that's this line here, the last several quarters around 5 million or so. Okay, now you can make the argument maybe they're cutting costs. We'll talk about that in a second, but I'm gonna just leave it at 5 million right now. So what we have here, we have expenses of 5 million, we have cash of 2.2 million. So we have to somehow make up the other 2.8 million, right? Where are they getting that money from? Well, the first thing that I think we should fill in is what we expect from revenue, right? And so if you guys don't remember, if you guys didn't watch my last earnings video for Patriot One, we kind of made this little table here, and we were looking at predictions for what they might do in the coming quarters, right? So these are the real numbers here. This is Q1, right? That's the numbers that they reported in their most recent earnings report. So the quarter that they just completed would be this quarter here, Q2. And so what we did here, the reason we made these two different kind of predictions is because we heard from Peter and Karen that they expect the growth trends to continue that they saw in Q1. Well, you could take that kind of two ways, and I explained this in my earnings video. The first way that you could take that is you expect, roughly similar dollar amount increases to backlog, revenue, signed agreements pending, things like that. Or you could take that as being the same growth rate, right? Or in other words, growth percentage, right? So if there was a 50% growth rate in Q1, right, then you expect another 50% growth in Q2 and another 50% in Q3. Obviously, the second, the latter way to take that is much more bullish. And so we kind of made these two charts, and then we're going to, when we actually get the financials for Q2, right, we're going to kind of compare and see which trajectory is looking more likely, right? And obviously, there's no guarantee they even meet that first number, right, the same dollar amount, right? But at least that's what they were predicting, so that's kind of what we modeled out here. So this top one here, these are assuming similar dollar amounts to each category that are increasing every quarter. And this bottom one here is the more bullish, which is assuming increases in the same percentage, right? So last quarter in Q1, we had quarter over quarter about a 42% increase in backlog. We had a 60% increase in revenue, and then we actually had over a 200% increase in signed agreements pending. So that's what this is modeling out here for Q2. This, again, is just modeling out the same dollar amount increase from Q4 to Q1 that we got, now from Q1 to Q2. So normally I like to be conservative, right? But in this video, if we're seeing if it's, even possible, right, we're probably going to stick, we're going to take the best case scenario. And I think this is, pretty close to the best case scenario. We'll talk about maybe some ways that this could be even higher. But let's just take that for now. Let's assume they are able to get that 680,000. So we'll add that in as revenue in our little table here. We'll do 680,000. So, and that is platform revenue specifically, right? If we look at what their Xtract platform, I know now it's confusing because since they changed their name to Xtract One, you think, well, the platform is Xtract as well. So I don't know, maybe they're going to kind of come up with some different names for that. But their Xtract segment, what was simply just Xtract before they changed their name and everything, that revenue was actually declining pretty rapidly. They were down to about 220,000 in the last one, from 850 down to 520 down to 220. It's probably going to decrease again. I don't think we've seen any major Xtract contracts recently. I'm going to optimistically put in, again, since we're going best case scenario here, maybe 150,000 from the Xtract segment there. So if we assume 150,000 in revenue from that, now we are looking at still about 1.9, almost 2 million, right, that we still have to make up after this revenue that we're getting from platform revenue and Xtract revenue, okay? So what else, what else do we have? Well, we actually have we have a couple different receivables, right? And what receivables are is money that they expect to be able to collect, right? The first one here is trade receivables, right? This is just your standard, right? This is money that they expect to come in from the services or products that they have sold, right? So they've already completed the work for this. They've done whatever service or installed whatever product, whatnot. They're just waiting on the money to come in. So this is very likely going to be relatively easy to collect. This is pretty much the most common type of receivable that every company has. I would say, especially if we're taking an optimistic view on this point, wondering if it's even possible for them to get it, I would say it's relatively easy for them to collect most of this. So we'll put the 600 and we'll just make it 650, just using round numbers here. So we'll add in 650,000 in receivables there. All right, so now we're down to 1.32 million, and this is where we get to kind of the real wild card here. And this is what kind of makes this possible. So this ITB funding, if you look down here, it kind of explains this ITB funding. And in case any of you guys are wanting to follow along, this is on their most recent financial statements. It is note number 4, receivables. So you guys can take a look at this if you want. Basically, for those of you guys that don't know, this ITB ITB program, it's a program that the Canadian government has where if any international company, so a company like Raytheon, that is a US company, gets a contract with the Canadian government, they have a policy where that company has to essentially give back, has to invest or donate, if you will, a small portion of that contract to a Canadian company or entity, or something that's going to benefit Canada. And so they have chosen, in this case, whether it be because they think it might be a future strategic partnership, whether they might be interested in Xtract One's products later on, they have chosen Xtract to give that money to, right? And it's through kind of this program where Xtract actually has to do some work. They have to do some kind of research and development, things like that. And they've talked about that in different earnings reports and webinars and things like that. So this isn't anything new. But what the thing is here is, so far they've only received 2 million of that total 3 million. And for about a year and a half now, this $1 million receivable has been sitting on their balance sheet, right? And I don't know exactly why they haven't been able to receive it. We haven't really heard them talk about it on earnings calls or different things like that. To credit against me, I haven't asked about it. But this is really kind of the wild card, that if they're able to collect this, right, and assuming we're in a tight cash position right now, you're going to lean on whoever you can to collect whatever money you can that is owed to you. If they're able to go to Raytheon and actually finally collect on this money, that is going to be a big difference in their cash for the quarter. Because if we add that 1 million here, right, now we're talking, they only need to make up $320,000 roughly after all of these, right? If we take their cash, add in the revenue, and if they're able to collect on all of those receivables, that's pretty huge, right? And they do have, I think, just some tax receivables here. Those are a little different. Those could take some time. They might actually not be able to collect on those depending on how their taxes work for several quarters. But these top two, I think, especially the top one, I think it's realistic. And it's definitely possible that they've been able to grab that $1 million finally from Raytheon. And this is where we start to see that it's actually possible that we could be sneaking our way through the quarter, seeing Xtract One able to kind of eke their way out here. Now, by no means are they, out of the woods, right? They're still going to be almost no cash here, right? But there's a couple other things that we could see that might boost this a little more and definitely make up for that $320,000 there. The first possibility is, as we know, they have a pretty good pipeline, and as well they have they have 4 million there. Remember, in signed agreements pending, and most of these are just pending installation. These are contracts that really have been signed, have all but been installed, right? And so we could very well see a lot of this drip down into, hopefully the backlog, but also remember, about 30% of their contracts still at the moment are upfront contracts, right? That means the money goes straight to revenue once those units have been installed, once Xtract One has completed all of the work for the contract. And we could see a decent, say one of those contracts is, $300,000, $500,000, optimistically we put down $500,000 there as a large upfront contract. And now look at that. We're in the green or in the black, however you want to look at it there, $180,000, right? This right there shows that it is definitely possible that they have made it through this quarter without raising any cash, right? And on top of all of this, I guess the last thing that you could add to this is potentially maybe they've been able to decrease some of their spending, right? Cut costs somehow, make things more efficient, and so again, we're doing best case scenario here. We're being very optimistic. Let's say they've been able to cut cash in total, especially when you talk about R&D. R&D is a large part, about between 1.5 and 2 million of their expenses every quarter, right? They could very easily, potentially, if they want to kind of slow down some of that this quarter because they're tight on cash, we could see another 300,000 in cost cut. Again, being very optimistic here, and we could be actually sitting with $500,000 remaining in cash. Again, not saying at all that this is a great cash position to be in. They are definitely going to have to raise money. But I just want to illustrate, because a lot of people are wondering, a lot of people are thinking there's no way, what's going on? How have they done this? Well, we can see that the math does add up. So that shows, okay, it is possible. Now, right, why are we waiting till we're down to $480,000, or, obviously we don't know, I'm just based on this math. They're very low on cash. Okay, let's just put it that way. Why are we waiting till we're this low? Well, it's really hard to say, right? Because we don't see behind the curtain. And I will say, I myself would have definitely appreciated a little more shareholder communication. But I do think it's possible that Peter and management do have good reasons, that they're not going out and saying every step of the way, we reached out to this investor, or we were contacted by this investor, right? Because, let's say that they're keeping us informed every step of the way, right? They're telling us about every possible opportunity, and maybe some, Goldman Sachs, right, comes and says, oh, we're very interested, right? Or a big strategic Oakview Group says, hey, Oakview Group has told us that, they're possibly interested in giving us $10 million or something, right? And then the deal doesn't go through, right? You could see huge fluctuations in the stock price if we're, kept up to date on every single opportunity that they're courting, what the details are, how negotiations are going, right? Now, obviously, there's a middle ground. There's a give and take. That's something that all of you guys, you can have your own opinion on exactly. I'm just saying that there could be potential scenarios out there where it might be advantageous for them, or it might not be maybe as risky as it seems to us on the outside what they're doing. I do want to caution people with jumping to conclusions, jumping to, oh, they're being completely irresponsible. Why are we waiting this long? We're basically out of cash. We're in a terrible position, right? We don't exactly know all of the details. So again, what I want people to take away from this, it is definitely possible, right? What do I think? Obviously, I think they're definitely going to have to raise money. I think we're probably going to hear very soon, unless one of these numbers is a lot bigger than I'm estimating. Who knows? They could have got a $2 million upfront contract. I think it's very unlikely, but that would obviously put them at still sitting at $2 million in the bank, and they could be holding out a little bit more. Who knows? But again, we're probably going to see, in my opinion, them raise money very soon. I think the initial numbers that I gave there with the 500,000 probably a little more realistic. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. If you guys have questions, comments, obviously, as always, leave those down in the comments below. I will try to answer all of your questions. And when we do get some sort of announcement come up, I'm expecting, as I said, them to have to raise money pretty soon. I will definitely cover that, and we'll talk about all the details, dilution, how it's going to affect the stock, the company, and everything like that. But thanks, guys, for tuning in, for watching. Again, I'm going to try to be posting videos more often. Other than that, I will see you guys next time. Have a great day.